Everything's going to be okay, the Mortal Shell edition. Now, if you're looking for a nice, relaxing, woosah-inducing, breathe-in, breathe-out experience, then Mortal Shell definitely ain't it. Right from the get-go, you're filled with this dread-filled musical humming. Nothing like that Crash Test Dummy song, but it sets the scene. Fallgrim and its surrounding areas are a bloody dangerous place, so pucker up because it's definitely squeaky bum time. What's up, you beautiful feckers? How you all doing? Now, Mortal Shell comes out tomorrow, okay? The long-awaited game by Cold Symmetry, but I was lucky enough to snag an early copy of it and have been spending as much time as possible playing it over the last few days. So let me just share my experience, hopefully spoiler-free. Now, I died a lot to begin with, especially when trying to find my way around while exploring certain areas, but can I just say that Mortal Shell has way more depth to it than I expected, but really hoped it would have, considering it is developed by about 15 people, a studio of 15 developers. Cold Symmetry have created an incredibly dark and enjoyable experience. It is a Souls-like game. Chances are you already know that if you're watching this. I have made several videos covering it in the past. Now, the visual scenery in some of Mortal Shell's biomes or zones definitely fit the tone. They shift from the Hills Have Eyes kind of hillbilly zone to a fiery, ash-filled area where you know that you're going to catch fire at some point, down to the cold darkness of below that's got plenty of frost and ice, to an incredibly kind of regal, religious vibed area with loads of dark marble and gold. So the game is dark, it's unforgiving, especially when you get greedy, and it is everything that you would come to expect from any Souls-like game. But it puts its own spin on things, like when you kill one of the bosses and collect a gland for the Dark Father. That's when the whole world kind of changes and becomes more sinister and a little bit scarier as well. Probably my favourite feature of Mortal Shell. When you pick up this item after you've killed one of those bosses, it feels like a race against time. You have this glowing gland tied to your hip. It's like this beacon. Gondor calls for aid, except this aid is coming to kick the unholy shite out of you. Basically, when you kill a boss and collect a gland, fog will descend and enemy types will change. Wraiths will appear where normal enemies once were, so will the big Grisha enemies, as well as undead creatures that can poison you and throw swords at you. Now, I haven't had a chance to check, but I have a feeling that certain things might only be accessible when the fog is down. Maybe certain interactions with NPCs or other items will be different. I know you can loot chests when the fog is down that are previously locked when the fog isn't down. So there are 4 Mortal Shells for you to find and possess in this game throughout the world, each one having different variations of health, stamina and resolve, while each having their own name and talent tree to upgrade and advance. So unlike other Souls-like games, you can't find different armor pieces, and there is no way to increase stamina or vitality or luck or any other stat. It's all tied to the specific shells themselves. The beginner shell is a nice balance of each stat, but then you might find the thief shell, which I'm not going to name for spoiler reasons, who has more stamina but less health, or the big tanky boy with the big gold plate on his shoulder who has tons of health but nearly no stamina at all. Then there is the kind of cleric one that has a higher amount of resolve than the other shells. Then there is also 4 different weapon types to get your hands on and find throughout the world. There is a huge fiery mace, there is a chilling Zweihander, there is a hammer and chisel, which is definitely my favourite. It hits fast and then you can dodge before you get slapped. Then there is also the sword, the broken sword that you start off with at the beginning of the game. But the really cool thing about finding these shells and these weapons is that you can see glimpses of where they are, an insight by interacting with the wall where they hang in town, or with these shells where they lie in the crypt. Simply walk up to them, interact with them, see the insight, which will show you a path and some landmarks. Follow that path, harden and get ready to fight in order to get that item. Now, like I said, your shells can be upgraded, giving them different perks depending on which shell you are upgrading. Perks that can increase your toxic resilience or your parry effectiveness, give them a bonus for when they harden. Each shell has a different amount of talent points that you can purchase, so different playstyles that might fit certain weapons better. And you can upgrade these shells simply by spending tar and of course glimpses that you can get by killing enemies. you spend them at one of the sisters. Now tar is basically the currency. It's like souls from Dark Souls, except it's called tar. When you die, you will drop it and you will need to go back to pick it back up. If you die while trying to get back to previously dropped tar, then of course you lose that tar. Now weapons can also be upgraded. Elemental damage can be added to them by searching around and finding special weapon specific items. Like the mace has 2 certain items you need to find to make it more of an incendiary device. Acid can also be applied to increase each weapon's damage, and you can also upgrade your parrying to successfully trigger certain reactions. So Mortal Shell definitely has a lot going for it. It's got lore scattered all over each zone, it's got hidden items to search and find, it's got a pretty nice variety of enemy types, of the shells, of the weapons. Visually it looks incredible, the audio seems like it's on point. The, I guess, biggest question will be, how challenging is it? Is it going to be mildly challenging, or are you going to find yourself punching your monitor, throwing your controller across the room? That's the question, right? That's going to be the question, right? Honestly, when I first jumped into it, the game was challenging. I mean, you're in the beginner shell, you've got no upgrades, you're using the basic weapon with no upgrades either, and I didn't know a lot of the patterns for each of the enemies, so it was a little bit difficult, and you will die quite a lot, especially if you get hit with one of those toxin procs, because damn, they tick quite hard. But after a while, and you get to know the tells, it's actually quite a simple game. It doesn't feel as challenging as other Souls-like games, or as Sekiro, as Dark Souls, as Neo, as any of those types of games, but it is still an incredibly enjoyable experience. The bosses themselves had a lot of, I guess, openings, so they would do multiple attacks, and then they would definitely have a few seconds where you could dash in, slap them a few times and dash back out, and then wait for them to go through, I guess, their rotation of attacks again. One of the bosses had a kind of closer. If you're too far away from him, he would dash towards you, do 2 attacks, and then leave himself open. So the best way to fight him was to just hit him, move far away, wait for him to dash at you, hit him, move far away, and just rinse and repeat. But they did still whoop my ass a fair few times before I got a handle on what their attacks actually were. So the game is out tomorrow. It's on the PlayStation, Xbox, it's on Epic Game Store on PC as well. So let me know in the comment section below if you pick it up, what you think of it. I would highly recommend picking it up. It is an incredible experience, definitely worth checking out. Do me a huge favour, like the video or don't, subscribe or don't, and as always, thanks for watching.